Mike Straka on Tap Out TV and Fight Now at the world premiere of Warrior here in West Hollywood, California. Joel Edgerton, Tom Hardy, Nick Nolte, a great film. We're going to talk to all the stars of the film, including director Gavin O'Connor. Check this out.
That do know for a fact because of the test screen.
Hey! Come on, Nick.
Last time I saw you, you were speaking at Mask's memorial service, and it was a very sad day, and you had some really great things to say about Mask. How much input did Charles have in this film?
Charles is right there. I got him with me, man. He was huge. He was the guiding force in our movie. When we lost him, we felt his presence every day, and I honestly, I know in my heart that he guided us. I felt it. He energized me. He pushed me. You know, Charles was a street angel, and we had a street angel looking out for Warrior.
Joel, what are the lines that your trainer says to you during one of the climax of the movie? Is that he says, if you don't win this fight, you don't have a home to go home to.
Yeah.
It's almost like getting motivation for your character, but in the scene, in the movie. Did that help motivate your character and what you were feeling in that moment?
Yeah, look, I mean, you know, it's interesting. A lot of those sort of corner scenes were really inspired by talking to one of the most successful mixed martial arts trainers in the world, Greg Jackson, you know, who operates out of Albuquerque. And we spent a lot of time with him. We showed him the fights, the previews of the fights. Like, if this was your fighter, what would you say to get him out of this situation?
And we call him Yoda, by the way.
You call him Yoda?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he should be called, by the way, too. But, you know, in terms of that extra kind of spice that a movie gives, which is like, there's also that added thing that you give to reality, which is that sense of fiction, kind of. So, you know, there's moments in the movie, a little bit more movie moments. And, you know, for my character, he really is a guy that represents what a lot of people are going through. Unfortunately, it's this kind of strain, financial strain. And Brendan, hey? Okay, I'll be 1 second because this is important to me. And I really relate to that as a character, you know, is that feeling. There's a lot of people really under a lot of pressure, and Brendan is that guy. And I think a lot of people relate to that.
Kurt, you play the mean and monstrous Koba, who I guess was kind of characterized off of Fedor Emelianenko, who, by the way, you looked a lot meaner than Fedor ever looked in his life, by the way.
Well, Fedor, he always has this smile on his face. You don't know if he's mad or happy. I can tell you this. When I was casted for it, they tried at least 48, 49 different fighters and actors. They couldn't get the right look, and if they did, the person was full of tattoos. So thank God I was at the right place at the right time. I was near the end of the line where they were going to just settle for somebody. I came in, I blew them away with my sparring, my technique, my striking, and my takedowns. Thank God.
The material meant a lot to me because of Charles. Charles had a big part in the script and writing it and doing all the background stuff on it. So being involved in the movie, it took a lot of time just wanting it to be perfect for Charles because that's what he would have wanted.
Frank Grillo, who plays the trainer, and you know, the thing that struck me about the way you played the character, I've known trainers for like the last decade, maybe 2 decades, Greg Jackson and Mark Delagrati and all the guys, Sean Tompkins, who just passed away, by the way. Great trainers in MMA, and you came across as somebody who's been a trainer. Like, how much research did you do, and how much time did you spend with Greg Jackson?
I spent on and off a couple of months with Greg, and Greg was kind enough to even come to Pittsburgh while we were shooting. Greg has become a brother to me. You know, he opened up his family and his gym. Everything that I learned, everything I say, all my movements, everything I do is a direct reflection of Greg Jackson, who I believe is one of the greatest coaches / trainers that I've ever been around. I mean, he really uses things like Beethoven and string theory and physics to teach these fighters who are very intelligent, you know, how to have an upper hand on their opponents. So I can't say enough about Greg Jackson.
Well, to go on that point, Greg Jackson taught George St. Pierre when he fought BJ Penn to put pressure on BJ's shoulder because all the blood will rush to BJ's shoulder and then he won't be so fast. I mean, and that's what George did during the fight.
That's right. That's exactly what he did. And you know, when in our fight, when Tommy is his shoulder is damaged, I said, Greg, what would I say to him? Because he's apprehensive about breaking or continuing the fight. He says, you tell him he break his other shoulder.
And you know, one of Greg's most famous lines is when George St. Pierre pulled his abductor muscle in between rounds against Thiago Alves. George said, I pulled my groin. And Greg Jackson said, I don't care. Hit him with it.
Right. And that's what I said. And that's exactly what Greg was he was irreplaceable. I mean, without Greg, I don't think the third act of the film would have been what it was because he filled in so many of the blanks because we didn't know, you know, unless you're a trainer, you don't know what to say. And I love him as a human being. I love his intelligence. I love his devotion and his love of his family. And everything that I am in the movie is a direct correlation to who Greg Jackson is.
Well, we call him Yoda in the MMA business. All right, everybody knows you're one of Joe Rogan's friends, and a lot of people say that you're playing Joe in the film, and you're playing yourself. I know you are.
I wanted Joe to walk the red carpet because he doesn't want to do it. I was like, dude, I'm playing you. I called him up. I asked him all these questions, and you know, I basically am channeling Joe Rogan. And I called him on. I said, do you have any advice? I'm playing you, and he said, just take yourself out of the equation and call the fights, and that's what I did.
How much fun did you have in doing this film? And not just that, you created a sense of realism. Like, you know, when it comes to the Hollywood ending, you know, the two brothers fighting each other, it had the potential of being really fucking cheesy.
Yeah, it did.
And it wasn't at all. They pulled it off and you pulled it off. How did you walk that fine line?
I just got excited and involved in the fights that instead of the drama. I just called the fights as I saw them. And anybody who knows the fight game, if you got two guys in there, you may have a world champion, you may have a guy who just, you know, who's not even seeded. But in the fight game, especially in MMA, one mistake, man, and that guy goes out. So anything can happen in MMA. Anything.
BJ Penn. And BJ, you know, being in this sport for as long as you have been, how important is it for Hollywood to get an MMA film correct? Because this one does.
You know, I haven't seen it yet. I heard it's great. Everybody was telling me it's a tearjerker and all these things. And I know I'm waiting. I want to decide myself. I want to see it. I think it is important. It's very hard to, I mean, from the movies we've seen so far, it's very hard to make that crossover because we know the sport so well. And the choreography, sometimes we're like, oh, that's not real. But, you know, I'm interested. I heard it's a good movie. So let's see.
And you know, one of the things that this movie does or tries to do is get into the psyche of a fighter and why a man fights and what do you fight for is really the tagline of the film. Do fighters have a special reason why you guys get into the octagon?
I think every fighter gets into the octagon. I mean, I don't know for everyone, I guess, but for myself now, I'm just on search for that perfect performance. You know, if I can just do that perfect performance one day, I'll be happy. I'll walk away.
Charles would have, you know, he was a big part of this film from the get-go. J.J. Rowley's character in the film actually was Charles's role, and Gavin stepped up and you know, the director of the movie stepped up and took over the part. But it was just, you know, Charles. We really feel like he's watching, and he's very proud of the movie. As our, you know, we love the film, and it really represents what we're all about, what MMA is all about, and Charles would have been happy to see it.
And you know, Skrape, it was several years ago that you did Fighting Words, both you guys did Fighting Words with me, and I remember seeing the Charles Mansfield Theater at the old Tap Out headquarters, but seeing the Warrior poster on the wall, you know, and Mark Reiner saying, that's a movie that we did, you know, we're doing this film, but it was like 2 years ago. Now, it is real now, it's come to fruition. So how do you feel about the movie actually happening and what's going through your head right now?
Kind of like mixed emotions, you know. I'm excited. I've seen the movie once. We did a screening in Philly, so you know, I kind of got all the jitters out of how the movie plays out. And then at the end, it's kind of dedicated to Charles. So I'm happy for is the guy going by with Tap Out MPS shorts on on a bicycle. That was cool. But you know, it's to be here on the carpet and doing the interviews and seeing all the guys again. That, you know, we haven't seen some of these guys. We haven't seen Frank Grillo. We haven't seen Tommy or Joe. We haven't seen those guys in almost 2 years. But so it's kind of bringing back those old memories of being on set for a month and a half in Pittsburgh. But man, I'm all over the place. I'm excited. I think I'm probably gonna cry. I brought some.
You're gonna cry?
I'm gonna use your collar. I'm gonna use your collar as a wipe. Yeah, he'll cry. Watch. We'll get it.